Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I have been watching this show that just hit Netflix. It's a documentary about the Night Stalker, who was some major serial killer in Los Angeles back in the 80s. This guy was creepy. I mean, I think he was like into devil worship and stuff. And the guy, if you look into his eyes, it's just like, you can just see the evil. But I've been watching this and I'm almost to the end. You ought to go check it out if you're into that kind of thing. It's pretty wild. Anywho, as we know, Brian Brooks is leaving the OCC imminently, and Bank XRP had posted a couple of videos of his, and I can't remember if I showed both or one or none of these, but it never hurts for you to watch some of these things, even if you're seeing it again, so you don't forget where this guy was coming from and what I believe he's put in place for crypto.
And I think the recognition we've had in my time at the OCC is crypto is banking. It's not that banks are okay, trading Bitcoin. It's that Bitcoin and ETH and stablecoins, they are banks. Blockchains fundamentally are banking because what they're doing is allowing the transaction of value across networks, which is what banking has done for 500 years. They're doing it in an orthogonally different way, but that's what banking's about. And so when you see us, for example, as we will do soon, start chartering as banks, companies that are crypto companies, you'll start to understand that we're not necessarily trying to make it so that big banks can dominate the crypto market. We're trying to tell crypto participants that a bank charter might be the right form for you to do what you're doing. And there's a lot to unpack there, but I think that's the vision.
Okay, there's one clip, and then there was another one here that was good too.
Banks can connect as nodes on blockchains for the purpose of supporting and transacting payments. So if you think about it, the networks that are transacting stablecoins are not their own separate networks. They tend to be the Ethereum network or the Algo network, or there are a number of other networks that some of these interoperable stablecoins are now able to connect to. And what we're saying is, hey, a bank can be, a staker on the Ethereum network, and in doing so, will then be able to transact and validate transactions that are, creating Ethereum tokens for them as a validator, while maintaining the network that is the network that stablecoins transact on. So it's a much more fundamental letter than just talking about stablecoins. But the point of that is to say, listen, we've already got banks that are maintaining payment networks. Think about the big banks that are part of the automated clearinghouse system. That's a small number of banks versus the Ethereum blockchain is maintained by millions of nodes. But still, it's long established that banks can get together, they can create payment networks and use that to transact payments across the system. All we're saying is the big bank oligopoly, which is what that network is, or the government monopoly, which is what Fedwire is, are not the only ways that banks can transact value, right? The role banks have is not to be oligopolists. The role banks have is to allow their customers to transact value with other people. And if one way of doing that in a much more interoperable way is using blockchains, because again, blockchains are just, internet protocols, then we're happy to tell banks they can do that. So that's the big deal here, is it gives banks a role as nodes on networks and says you can not only use the bank monopoly networks, you can use the open networks to send value. Now, that will open up a world. Remember, just a moment ago, I was talking about imagine a world where nobody ever has to download into or downshift into fiat. It will open up a world where you will have people who have investment assets in cryptocurrencies, and when they're ready to make a payment, they will shift some of that into a stable coin, and their bank can transact the stable coin without ever leaving blockchain. And everything can happen inside of the network.
That was one great description of how this world's about to change. And while I was watching that video, I'm watching my 8-year-old drive down the street on his bicycle. He's making me nervous. It makes me nervous just watching him ride down the street. I'm worried he's not going to stop at a stop sign or something. But anyway, okay. Moving along, we have this from Jeff Sutton, sent me this. Coming to Bitrue on January 18th is Portion, an ecosystem for collecting and trading digital art and collectibles. We're going to open both USD and BTC pair for this new coin starting on such and such. This caught my attention because Portion looks like a very interesting project. And I don't know anything about this, and nobody's paying me to tell you about this, but I wanted to show you this because this is where everything's going. I've been saying it for a long time. Imagine, only wealthy people have been able to invest in fine art and things like that in the past, or antique cars, or whatever, big, huge commercial buildings. All of these things are going to be tokenized, and access to the investing world that before has only been accessible to wealthy people is going to be accessible to me and you. If you're into fine art and you've never been able to invest, you're going to be able to invest in a piece of it just by owning tokens that represent ownership. And I believe that's what this Portion is working on. It says, be a collector. And then it says, what is Portion? Portion is the premier online marketplace connecting artists and collectors through blockchain technology to easily sell, invest, and own art and collectibles with complete transparency. And they even have a section down here where for the artist community. So if you're a creator, you can apply. It's a way for you to start getting paid for your art. How cool is that? This tweet right here caught my eye today. I wanted to at least just read it. Finally, the real truth. I will tell you what I see. I don't know who this is or who this is. I will tell you what I see right now. A bloodbath, guns everywhere, people panic selling and they can't sell or buy. Bitcoin dropping from 31,000 to 13,000 to 1,300 in a day. Huge global economy collapse. XRP 16 cents to $1.60 to $10 to $1,600 in nanoseconds. I've always felt like there was probably going to be some sort of a collapse that's a part of all this, and that those of us that discovered blockchain and discovered these investments are going to be some of the wealthiest people in the world. But there's also going to be a class of people who didn't discover it, who are going to be in a world of hurt. I've always felt that way. Crypto Mike had tweeted this out today. Now, I've shown this before, but it's worth reminding. He says, I still think Mnuchin taking this photo the same day the stellar USDC announcement was no coincidence. Look at the very bottom of the photo. I think the USDC will be used as the digital dollar. Here's the announcement he was talking about. USDC is coming to Stellar. And this is the USD, as I recall, this is the USDC that from Circle, which is backed by Goldman Sachs. They're putting this on Stellar because that way that Ethereum token can move fast, because it couldn't do it without Stellar or XRP. So, and then Mnuchin the same day, I guess is what they're saying. This is the picture, but if you look closely down here at the bottom, it says Stellar Labs. Just happens to have a stand that says Stellar Labs on that. I'm assuming it's that same day. Okay. Next, Bank XRP, Forbes number, they said to look at number 4. This is an article, and this is apparently a conference call that was going on. That looks like Hester Pierce, this Congressman Patrick McHenry, and this Forbes article is written from this. 5 New Year's resolutions for cryptocurrency. 1, the Senate should confirm an SEC chair who is open or at least neutral to cryptocurrency and financial innovation. 2, stop the turf wars between financial regulatory agencies. 3, Congress should work in a bipartisan fashion to adopt a rational, common sense approach to cryptocurrency. 4, the SEC should withdraw its lawsuit against Ripple. Just hours before he left the building, former SEC Chair Jay Clayton lobbed a lawsuit against Ripple Labs, operator of the global settlement system using XRP, the world's 3rd largest cryptocurrency. The suit alleges that Ripple, after 7 years, has been transacting with a security, not a currency, and thus seeks to punish the company for failing to register and to bar its founder and executive from participating in the crypto market. Such a question could have been answered with notice and comment rather than a lawsuit. In any event, the SEC's case has a fatal flaw on relying on the Howey test from the SEC versus H.J. Howey Company, 1946. According to the law professor J.W. Verrett of George Mason University in the Real Clear Policy discussion, a security is an investment contract where the holder participates in a common enterprise with the seller, but former CFTC chairman Chris Giancarlo argues XRP is not an investment and there is no commonality between its holders and Ripple. XRP is a medium of exchange and settlement. However, even if Ripple wins in court, the company has asserted it will fight vociferously. The SEC will have already done its damage to open source XRP Ledger and every developer using it. The lawsuit has chilled other crypto enterprises, not to mention Ripple itself. Most defendants in regulatory enforcements never go to court because of the cost. Instead, they settle. Apparently, Ripple tried to settle the question for years, but it appears that getting a headline was more important to Clayton. This abuse demonstrates what many legal scholars observe as the fundamental unconstitutionality of an administrative agency like the SEC, combining in one body an administrator, rulemaker, and judge, and thus violating the separation of powers clause. And then number 5 was Congress should mitigate China's growing threat on digital assets. And then this is Patrick McHenry that was in that, and he's seen here in a picture with Chris Larson. Listen to what he says.
Change is here. Digital currencies exist. Blockchain technology is real. And Facebook's entry in this new world is just confirmation, albeit at scale. The world that Satoshi Nakamoto, author of the Bitcoin white paper, envisioned, and others are building, is an unstoppable force. We should not attempt to deter this innovation, and governments cannot stop this innovation. And those that have tried have already failed. So the question then becomes, what are American policymakers going to do to meet the challenges and the opportunities of this new world of innovation? Some politicians want us to live in a permission-based society where you need to come to government, ask for its...
Okay. And then today out of the IMF, we had a couple of interesting tweets. The first one's this. In our first weekend read newsletter of the year, we look at 3 big priorities for 2021, along with Denmark's green vision, the legal standing of digital currencies, and more. And then they've got this picture, obviously blockchain going on here. And somebody pointed out to me that there's a 5 and an 8 and a 9. Not that I'm one of those people or anything, but they pointed it out to me today, so I thought I'd mention it. IMF, official digital currencies might allow private citizens to open accounts with central banks for the first time. What does that mean? New IMF staff research looks into legal implications of various CBDC designs being considered around the world. And then there was this video brought to my attention by XRP King Lin. I got my eyes on this Twitter handle right here because it's one of those that popped out of nowhere and then all of a sudden started talking like they knew something. And I like those kind of handles. I pay close attention when they pop up.
And even many governments, their basic attitude, we have more urgent things to take care of than this. So as I said in my talk, the world is divided into a very, very small minority of people concentrated in a few corporations and governments that have a clear, or at least a clearer idea of what is really happening and what is at stake. And the vast majority of humanity that they just don't have the time, they don't have the volition, they don't have the education or the ability to make sense of what is happening. And this is very, very dangerous.
In the past, you talk about the succession of difficult situations humanity's found itself in. If you're on the wrong side of events, in feudalism or in the industrial age, you're a peasant or you're a worker, and we could find ourselves on the wrong side of history again in the vision that you create. Are we less able in this situation we're about to enter to be in charge of our own destiny than we have been in the past?
Right, it was always very difficult to be in charge of your destiny. What is unique now is that the big danger for people is no longer exploitation, it's irrelevance. I mean, previously in history, if you were on the wrong side of history, if you didn't understand what was happening and you lost the competition, then you ended up as some kind of serf or manual laborer being exploited by the people who understand and have the power. Now, if you're left behind, you're facing something far worse.
That's a pretty interesting clip. Okay, iTrustCapital had put this out in the last day or so. 5 reasons to start a crypto IRA. And by the way, in the description of this video, there's a link where you can get 1 month free off with these guys. Here's their 5 reasons. 1, tax savings. That's the obvious. 2, portfolio diversification. They're talking about being able to buy crypto. 3, tremendous growth. Crypto, of course, is obvious, the growth there versus other asset classes. Easy management. Managing via an exchange. This is talking about how you don't have to deal with the storage of your digital assets. They use institutional custody. I've always found that it's weird that we can't go and invest in a taxable account like our Coinbase account. You can't go there and have institutional custody that's the equivalent of your stock portfolio on E-Trade. You can't do that yet. But you can do it in a crypto IRA like iTrustCapital because they do use institutional custody. And I don't understand. The only reason that it can possibly be is that the crypto industry, the deal has been made that it will not be opened up to individual crypto investors and the banks are the ones that are going to get the traditional banks, the JP Morgans, the Goldman Sachs, the Bank of America. That has to be what the deal is that we're not going to be able to have a safe place to store our digital assets until those guys are able to get the assets first, because they know there's a lot of us out here that are going to be mega wealthy that were here first, and they don't want some startup out of Silicon Valley getting those assets. That's what makes sense to me. And then 5th, passive income. They're going to do staking if they're not doing it already on iTrustCapital. I can't remember if they're doing it yet. Let's see. It says that at iTrustCapital, we'll be supporting Ethereum staking in the near future. Well, there's the answer. So, good stuff. Also, this went out about unstoppable domains, and there's also a link to this in the description of this video. If you don't have an unstoppable domain, you can buy a .crypto. They're like $40, and you can go and get one. Watch this. This is what they just did. So you can get a .crypto domain name, and then you can type in somebody else you can send and receive with Litecoin in Litecoin. That is a big freaking deal. This is Unstoppable Domains. There's a link in the description. Click on it and you can go get one. I bought several football ones like LSU football.crypto, Auburn football.crypto, since that's where I went. I hate LSU, but I don't mind an investment in something that LSU might want one day. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family to go to Unstoppable Domains and get themselves the new email address. This is the email address for money. Thank you for listening.